All right, we're live. Yeah, so tonight Kofi's not joining us. I am James. This is Lowering the Bar with Wulfgar. And tonight we have I have such a good guest. Alan Wolf. I have known him for a while now, and he does some amazing stuff. So Alan, please tell us about yourself and what you do.
Hi, I'm Alan Hansard. I'm the owner of the Superhero Costuming Forum online. I'm an avid costumer for 15 years now. That is hard to believe. I'm a surgical sales rep, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. So I've seen some of your work, right? Like definitely not all of it, but some of it. Everything I've seen of yours is the Doctor Strange, the just all the different stuff that you've done over the years. How did you get started in cosplay or costuming and tell us your origin story?
Yeah, so I grew up literally learning how to read from comic books. We lived in Ohio. We had family in Florida, so every year we'd come down to Florida a few times, and my mom would put a stack of like 50 comic books in the back seat for me and my twin brother to read. And so from a very early age, we just devoured as many comics as we could. As a pharmaceutical rep a long time ago, I used to dress up for Halloween, and it helped me get access, and I got to see a lot of physicians near Halloween when I dress up. So one year I did a Jedi Knight costume, just a cheap $60 Rubies costume at the time, and I had a blast doing it. The next year I had a cheap Rubies Superman costume that I wore around to a bunch of doctors' offices, and that was a lot of fun. I had some friends in Destin, Florida, who told me about DragonCon. They'd seen some of my pictures from going around to doctor's office as a pharmaceutical rep, and they said, "Man, if there's anybody we know who needs to go to DragonCon, it's you."
Yeah. And then you changed DragonCon forever just by being you. Really?
Eventually, yeah. My first year was 2006, and I was there for literally one day. My wife at the time didn't want to go to DragonCon. I kind of talked her into doing kind of a split Atlanta weekend trip where we just swing by the con for a day, and then we went out.
Yeah. You know how DragonCon is. You can just catch it all in like a couple hours, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, 15 years ago it was a lot smaller than it is now.
Yeah.
So we came, and I distinctly remember calling my twin, who I mentioned, and I said, "Adam, I am looking at Iron Man right now. There's an Earth X Captain America, like down the stairs. Adam, you have to come to this thing." And I just like exploded. And the very next year was full DragonCon from then on out. I was absolutely hooked.
So have you missed one since then?
No, we were going to miss last year. Despite the pandemic, we had a cruise to Alaska that was canceled due to COVID, and then the con was canceled due to COVID. We're actually not going to go to DragonCon this year, even though I literally live 20 minutes away. So we'll look forward to seeing a lot of our friends in 2022.
Yeah. And I'm planning on going to DragonCon, even though I'm much further away than 20 minutes. But I totally understand. We actually went to a convention like last weekend, and it was weird. It was strange to be back at conventions and seeing everybody being and doing all the things a lot of the things they used to do pre-COVID, even with COVID going on. I've been vaccinated, and I got a COVID test afterward, but it's still super weird. And, we're not 100% on all this stuff yet. And if things change, and so I ask you, I guess, a follow-up question: are you not going to DragonCon specifically because of COVID, or is it a different conflict?
Yeah, being what I like to think of as a medical professional, in looking at the science and the data, because I'm very clinically oriented, it's not really the safest time. And I'm not going to begrudge anyone you're talking who wants to go to DragonCon this year, or any convention for that matter. I mean, everyone has to make their own personal choices and just kind of have the level of comfort that they're all comfortable with. But in the state of Georgia, I think there's somewhere around 30% of the population vaccinated, and it's kind of stalled out. And with the new Delta variant that's going around, it just seems like an unnecessary risk. So we're just going to have some of our friends from out of town who are fully vaccinated over to our house, to what I call my sanctum sanctorum. I've got a full bar here at the house. So
let's
yeah,
MTV Cribs this shit. Come on, let's go.
There's the full bar.
Well, and I see the Doctor Strange symbol on the back there. On the back
Yeah,
wall.
so every bar should have a neon. So that's the seal of the Vishanti with my sideshow Doctor Strange up there on top. So we call that the Bar of Agamotto.
Yeah, well, I mean, why would you not?
Yeah, so we'll have some people over during DragonCon.
Oh, I might have lost you.
Yeah. Oh.
No, you're good now. You're good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to say if you guys want to head over, we're going to have some fully vaccinated friends over during the con. Just a little bit more safe environment and hopefully a little bit more intimate and not amongst the hustle and bustle and crowds.
I was about to say a lot of my DragonCon plans this year are definitely not to just go intermix them among the crowds, right? Like I'm trying to do more like outside shoots and hey, why don't we meet up? I want to meet up with you, but let's meet up, not around the crowds as much. So it's definitely going to be a different experience at least. And I appreciate the invite and I may have to take you up on that. But I also I would be remiss if I didn't mention your background there, since we're taking a tour. Yeah. Tell us about what's behind you right now.
So I have one of the largest, I think, Marvel Legends toy collections in the country. Probably one of the nicest displays. So I've got 7 Detolfs from IKEA behind me. They're all on custom bases, so they're lifted up off the floor. And then on top, I've got a string of Doctor Strange memorabilia at top. If you can't tell, I'm really big into Doctor Strange. In the other room, I've got a couple of cases that are full-on dioramas of the X-Men mansion with the Danger Room underneath, and then I've got another cabinet which is 3 levels of space dioramas with all my Marvel cosmic figures. So all in all, I probably at this point have around 550 or more. I've kind of lost count.
Yeah, it's hard.
Marvel Legends figures. Yeah, so it's a fun hobby. It gets really expensive. This is also due to my twin brother. It's his fault. He started collecting Marvel Legends when they first came out. He had about 60 figures. His wife, unlike mine, unfortunately, is not a nerd. And so they've just been sitting in his attic for a dozen years. And so he sent those to me after I bought a few Marvel Legends. And then, boom.
Yeah.
All of this has happened since.
So I've definitely seen online, you said that you have some dioramas in your other room. And I've seen you post them. How often do you change them around? And is it something like that, or you do it and then it becomes like a permanent fixture, or do you ever like change it up for random things?
What you see behind me changes all the time just because they're releasing way too many figures nowadays. Thankfully, I can keep up with it. I make a nice living. I feel sorry for a lot of other people because there's so much. So these displays behind me, these cubes get shuffled around as new figures come out. I've actually got a few that I need to rearrange currently based on some new figures that I just got in the other day. The dioramas are pretty static. I don't see them changing that much. If you know anything about Hasbro, they have what's called the HasLab Kickstarter, basically. Every year they'll come out with a big Marvel Legends type figure. So last year they came out with a 26-inch Marvel Legends Sentinel. So it's going to be over 2 feet tall. So when that comes in, I'll change up my Danger Room display, take out the measly 19-inch Sentinel that's in there right now. And actually, just 2 days ago, they came out with the Marvel Legends HasLab Galactus, which is going to be 31 inches tall. It will be the size of a small toddler.
I was about to say that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, are you going to make a whole one for Galactus, or do you already have Galactus one?
So I actually already built a diorama for Galactus because I had a sneaking suspicion that was going to be their next HasLab reveal, and it was. I was right. unfortunately, the display that I have is 30. It's 31 inches tall. The figure I was wrong is 32 inches tall. So the display that I spent a month making is an inch too short. So I'm going to probably just have to bend Galactus's knees a little bit and bend his head down to get him to fit inside of it.
Yeah, it'll be fine. He's always looking down anyway at things. Right?
Yeah, I mean, he's always looking down with Fantastic Four, so it'll work.
Yeah,
that's what I'm telling him. It's all.
So for people who are watching, I just need to interject. Now that we have a couple people watching, if you have any questions for myself or Alan, please put them in the comments. I don't have Kobe here today, so I'm trying to watch to see what's popping up in comments, what's not. But any questions, let us know. Otherwise, let's just talk and tell stories. So getting back to costuming, I guess this also goes into the kind of fandom. Your favorite character obviously seems like it's Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah, far and away.
How many costumes of Doctor Strange have you done, or have you kept count?
So we've got 2 currently, and I say we because Mary, my wife, is a professional seamstress. She's absolutely amazing. So
that's helpful when your favorite character is Doctor Strange.
It is very helpful. Incredibly intricate work and detailed work. A couple of the probably the best costumes of Doctor Strange that I think, if I'm a little biased, that have ever been made. So we've made the classic blue costume with Doctor Strange with the red cape, and then we've made the more current black and red Doctor Strange costume. As a matter of fact, if we go on a tour here again, I'll show you.
Let's go.
Here I am. Let me turn that light off there so we can maybe see it. We're getting the glare off my own computer screen, but that is
okay. I see it
on the cover of Doctor Strange #1.
That is so cool. So how did that happen?
So it pays to be friends with Marvel Comics official photographer, which at the time was Judy Stevens. Mm-hmm. Judy and I worked together, collaborating on the giant superhero photo shoots at DragonCon for many years. And when she was looking to put together these cosplay cover variants, me and about 15 other friends, people that she knew, for the comics that they were looking to do variant covers of, because they did a whole slew of different #1s at that point, were contacted by Judy. It was, I tell Mary, my wife, that that's going to go in the coffin with me. It's one of my proudest things, because, as a little kid who grew up learning to read comics, I never thought a picture of me would be on the cover of a Marvel comic, let alone my favorite character.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not a surprise that Judy was like, hey, who do I want on the Doctor Strange? I should talk to Alan, right? Like immediately I think Alan, Doctor Strange, and back and forth.
Yeah.
But you're totally right. That is a dream come true for like everyone, right? Because comics are the base. Like we all love the movies and we love everything that's happened with all that. But comics are like where things started, at least for me. For a lot of people I know, and for you to be on that #1 cover, wow. Is that a variant cover or is that the cover?
So that's a variant cover.
Okay.
I think you can purchase me for about $10 or less on eBay. I haven't checked in a while. That copy I just got recently because Stan Lee signed it.
Wow.
He's one of the co-creator of the character. So to have Stan Lee's signature on the comic book that I am on the cover of, I think is pretty darn special. I always tell everybody that I'm Marvel's other official Doctor Strange. So it's me and Benedict,
Yeah,
we're besties now.
And you're stand-in, really. That's what it is.
Us apart sometimes. I know.
Yeah, I mean he's your stunt devil, and he does a lot of his own stunts, I guess.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic, and I gotta ask too, like, what'd you think specifically of the movie Doctor Strange? Do you think that they did it justice?
I think they did an amazing job. I was blown away by it, especially if you saw it in IMAX 3D. Doctor Strange was designed to be filmed and shown in IMAX 3D. And that was just an absolutely amazing experience. I think you got about 12% more screen with IMAX, and to see the worlds changing and turning around with the kaleidoscope effects through different dimensions, it was definitely, pardon the pun, an otherworldly experience in IMAX. And I think they did justice to Doctor Strange as a character. They stayed close enough to the origin story that it was true. I was absolutely fine with making Wong more than just his manservant and putting him on more of an equal footing. I liked the ominous introduction of Baron Mordo, because he was good in the beginning and then turned against Doctor Strange in the Ancient One in the comics. And, unlike a lot of people, I was actually fine with Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One.
Oh yeah. I think she did fine. She was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, the Ancient One in the comics is sort of a cliched white man goes and learns from the wise old ancient Asian guy. So for them to change it around and make it a woman instead, I think that was absolutely fine. I was fine with that. Would it have been nice to have an Asian woman? I think that would have been great too. Hindsight's 2020. But I absolutely loved the film, and I think everyone is really excited to see where Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness goes.
Oh yeah. I won't go into anything more. We can talk about Doctor Strange because it was a long time ago. But all the current stuff, I try not to talk too much about, just for spoilers and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But so let's talk costuming. Okay. So you've been making costumes for a very long time. I always loved to hear about how people were making stuff or what they like your favorite mediums, that sort of thing. So we'll start off with what's your favorite, absolutely can't leave home without it if you're going to go making costumes, tool? What's that tool or tools or even just subset of it? But what is the thing that you always use, or you're using all the time and you just can't live without?
I think for me, because I'm not the most skilled, if I need sewing done, that's my wife because she's an expert.
Right.
I think I'm probably the glue master. I can cheat and cut corners and hide stuff and use whatever kind of glue is available. And I've tried all sorts of different types. Lots and lots of contact cement and foam in my day. Lots.
Yeah.
Gallons, as I'm sure you use frequently as well.
Yeah, contact cement is fantastic stuff. And they make a lot of really, really good glues for fabric, right? As you probably know. And it's great to have that in your pocket when you're in costume, right? Some strips. I talked to Dustin Fletcher a month or two ago. And he was talking because he does a lot of the on-set work. And he recommended like 3 things that I've since bought. And now we're on my kit that I carry with me at conventions. And yeah, it's great to be able to glue things back together. So what would you say is one of your favorite things you've made, or your favorite costume that you've made?
I think my favorite costume there's 2 answers to that question. So there's my favorite to wear.
Okay.
And the favorite that I've made. So the favorite one for me to wear is that black and red Doctor Strange costume that I just showed you. I think there's something about that high collar that makes me stand up a little taller and jump my chin out and kind of strut around a little bit. It makes you feel sort of like regal when I'm in that costume. It's just an absolute blast to wear. I think my favorite one that I've ever made is probably Sasquatch, just because of all of the time and effort, blood and tears that went into that 8.5 foot tall and 6 foot wide costume.
I have seen that. I did not know that you made that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You're talking about the one from the comics, of course. For people,
Sasquatch from Alpha Flight.
Yeah, Alpha Flight. Yeah. So yeah, and that kind of brings me to the same to another question, I guess. By the way, Toby, you are welcome anytime. Stop by the booth, get stuff repaired. Yeah, man, I got you. So when you're doing all these gigantic Marvel, maybe not even Marvel shoots, just the gigantic shoots that you're doing, I want to get into talking about that too, and also just anything really. But it seems like you're able to come up with people who have all these crazy different characters that I feel like I hardly ever see people cosplay. And I know I've been in a couple of your shoots too, where I've specifically made characters for those. But do you see yourself doing that a lot? And is that something that you do, like for Sasquatch? Was that for that or no?
No, that wasn't for the giant photo shoot. It would have been impractical to try to bring it to that. That was a costume where, I was trying to think of something big to do because it always seemed to me, especially early in my, costuming career, that the biggest costumes got the biggest, attention.
Sure.
And I loved Alpha Flight as a kid. One of my all-time favorite issues of Alpha Flight was an early issue. I can't remember which number, maybe number 5 or number 8, where Sasquatch faced off against the Super Skrull, which I've done both of those costumes now. I've done Super Skrull and Sasquatch. And I thought about it for a while, and I said, I bet if I did a Sasquatch, I could get together the entire Alpha Flight group. And we did. We had a full Alpha Flight group that came together from that idea. So I started with the idea, and then 7 months later, I finished the costume with about a week to go before DragonCon. And that was working nearly every single evening when I got off work, which was probably around 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and I'd work for an hour or two every single night. It was so much work, it actually burnt me out from costuming. I took about 1.5 years off after that. It was too much.
Oh, I hear you. I talked to a decent amount of people that say that one thing or another did burn them out.
Here I'll show.
Let me. I definitely want to see it. I mean,
you see, I don't know if you guys can see my.
Oh yeah, we can definitely see that.
So there's a work in progress of Sasquatch. So you can see the foam construction underneath.
Yeah.
And you can see all of the muslin that is glued onto it, kind of holding all that together. Here's kind of a close up of the. I don't know if you can see that with the light here of the head itself.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a picture. This is kind of fun. I don't know if it really shows up there. There's a picture of my foot next to the hand, just to kind of give some of the scale of it.
So how'd you do? Was the hands were your hands? Were they or were they?
So I actually stared at my own hand and took about a solid 2 weeks to carve that hand out of foam and then cover it with muslin strips and then paint it and then weather it. And I used milk jugs. The plastic to create the fingernails, which I then weathered as well. There was a wire armature in that hand, so you could actually move and pose all of the fingers and the thumb. It's one of the coolest things I think I've ever made. Just to give another sense of the scale, here's me standing in front of a car.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's more massive than I thought it was.
Yeah.
It was, right? For scale, person and car for scale. There you go.
Yeah, so here's me standing in it without the stilts on. So my feet ended in the knees, and my head actually poked out of the center. So in the middle of the chest, I had little slits with a wire behind it. So no one could tell that I was looking out through the middle of the pecs. And then my hands ended in the elbows. I had grips on the arms, so I could move at the elbow so that I could move the hands around, and I could walk in the stilts. But we were so popular, I really didn't get the chance to move because we were surrounded.
Yeah, how tall were the stilts? Do you remember?
The stilts were about 2 feet tall, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, walking on stilts! How'd you do that?" I've always found walking on stilts to be incredibly easy. I never had a problem with it. It's pretty simple, actually.
That's cool for you because I've tried stilts that are about like 6 inches tall. And I'm like, nope, we're done. I have zero balance when my feet are off the ground, so that's how it goes.
There's all my years of skateboarding as a kid.
Yeah, that's probably it, right? You learn, you pick up. But yeah, that's fantastic. I love when groups come together because somebody's like, hey, I want to do this thing. You want in, right? And Alpha Flight, you hardly ever see Alpha Flight. I don't think I've ever seen another Sasquatch, which is sad because Alphaflight and Sasquatch are both really, really cool characters. I'm sure other people have done it, but a lot of people don't get to love, or a lot of characters don't get love like that.
What was neat about that costume was it was so big. I had a Nissan Pathfinder at the time. I had to take out all of the back chairs. And Sasquatch took up the entire Pathfinder from back to front, top to bottom. And that was with pieces stuffed inside of other pieces. It was so big. I set up the head so it was looking out of the passenger window. Driving from Florida to Atlanta for 5 hours, I had so many people drive by me looking at my monster staring out at them, which was fun. And when we got to the convention floor, I realized I was too big to fit through any door at any hotel. So I actually had to get dressed on the floor of the Marriott.
Yeah.
So we found a chair and started, me and a team of 5 others started bringing up pieces from my car. And it took about 15, 20 minutes to get me into it and assembled, which, by the way, I had a Camelback with ice cold Gatorades in it. I had some foamy fans up here. The computer fans that I put in the back that took forever wiring refused to work, so those never worked. I had a cooling vest and a cooling cap. So anyway, we had to move up against a back wall because the crowd was getting too large around.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wasn't really paying attention to the crowd, but when they finally put like Voltron, like the final piece, like the head on me, and then I was complete. I stood up completely and I looked out, and I was on the back wall of the Marriott, and the crowd went all the way to the other side of the Marriott. The entire floor was all waiting, and as soon as I was done, everyone broke into thunderous applause. I've never seen or heard anything like it at DragonCon. And the rest of Alphaflight assembled around me, and we couldn't move. We just stayed there for pictures.
And what year was that? Do you know?
I don't exactly remember.
I know they all blur together. I couldn't tell you any of my years.
It was I think it was probably 10 or 11 years ago. So it's probably 2010 or 2011. It was actually, that was the night that I first met George Perez. George walked up to the group, and George is so humble. He was like, "Do you guys mind if I get a picture with you?"
Yeah,
like,
right?
You're George Perez. Whatever you want to do. So George came and stood in front of me as Sasquatch, and I moved one of my arms, and George turned around and he was shocked. He was like, "Oh my God, there's somebody in that thing!"
Yeah.
That was a statue standing up against the wall.
And I mean, it could be, right? There's a lot of times where that's what's so impressive. If you could move it and you could make I guess you couldn't move the hands when there, but somebody else could pose the hands, right? You were saying?
Yeah. So
right,
never had a chance. I mean, we were just mobbed. We actually got moved 3 different times by security because our group was so popular. We were creating a fire hazard. Because people would not move around from Alphaflight. So that was a pretty fun and unique experience. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but that's a shot from Wizard Magazine. If you remember the old Wizard costume contest, I actually won the Wizard Magazine Halloween costume contest one year with Sasquatch. So I was their grand prize winner.
That's so you're talking about Wizard Magazine, like the comic magazine that started the convention. Yeah, for people who are like, oh, Wizard's just a convention. No, like they used to be a comic magazine, right? Are they still? They don't still have comic magazines though, right?
No, I mean, for your younger viewers who may see this, Wizard Magazine before the dawn of the internet and at the beginning of the internet was kind of like winning the Oscars for costuming. There weren't conventions, there weren't costume convention, like contests for the most part. So winning Wizard Magazine was kind of like the ultimate thing you could do in superhero costuming. And it was a goal of mine. And I hope to win with Sasquatch. I was so excited that I did. It was actually the second time I won it, because I won it a few years prior to that with my Firestorm and Red Tornado costumes. They called me the Justice League B team, and put pictures of both of them up there. And and I won the contest a few years prior to that, which was fun.
Yeah, I mean, you hardly ever see Red Tornado either, right? Like, and there's all these really great characters that, I mean, they're hard to cosplay. Don't get me wrong, because how are you gonna do the tornado? But it's great that you have done those. So, am I seeing a theme here? I mean, I know Doctor Strange is popular, but probably back when you were first cosplaying, he wasn't
not popular
right?
at all.
Yeah.
I did a parade for Christmas in Atlanta the first year that we had that Doctor Strange costume, years before the movie.
Sure.
And out of the entire parade, I think 5 people knew who Doctor Strange was. Nobody knew who Doctor Strange was at that time.
And now look at it.
Just ubiquitous. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. Now he's just like household name almost, basically. A lot of things have changed. What is from the time you first started costuming till now? What are some of the major changes that you've observed, I guess?
Everything. So, from the Dark Ages, there wasn't an Etsy. There wasn't a Wulfgar weapons and props. There wasn't YouTube.
Yeah.
There weren't tutorials, at your fingertips a moment away. There was a Joann's fabric, down the street for you, or a Hancock fabric, which used to exist. And there were online forums. So, I started the superhero costuming forum after being a moderator on the League of Heroes for about a year. And at one point, we had over 3,000 members from all over the world come online to the forum, because that's really where you were able to gain ideas, solicit feedback, try to find some new ideas of how to make things, because it was more collaborative back then, which I do miss. I think there was a better sense of community, more cohesiveness, and it was a smaller knit group. I mean,
I was about to say it was a lot smaller too, so you knew who was where and what, right?
Yeah, but I knew this. I knew where we're at today was coming. I saw back then that the Marvel movies especially were going to lead to an explosion in the popularity of costuming. And I know this sounds silly, but I kind of held on to it for the time because I knew it was special and I know it wouldn't last forever. But with the rise of other social media, I mean, this is back in the days of MySpace.
Oh yeah, I remember. I had a MySpace at one point. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had a whole thing. I had a friend of mine build me one of the coolest MySpace profiles.
yeah, right. Because that was the thing, right?
We actually had to program. So with Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all of these other avenues for social media, kind of the days of the online forum are kind of past us, because people now can just go on YouTube and there'll be 10 tutorials that they can pick and choose from on how to put this foam piece together, how to use this warbler.
Yeah. And videos go a long way too. Right? I remember when I first started, I was trying to figure stuff out, and then I went on and saw some tutorials. That's awesome, and that was great, but still I didn't really know exactly how they were putting foam on or glue on or all those things unless it was a really, really detailed instruction thing, or it was a video, right? So video definitely is king in lots of different ways. So you were mentioning that it was very collaborative and people all wanted to share their how to do stuff. I feel like that's been something that's kind of carried forward, specifically in cosplay, right? I see other industries, they don't want to really share a lot of secrets or things like that sometimes. But I have seen, at least it's a question to you, is have you seen that the same camaraderie, or at least I feel like I still see people helping each other all the time. Is that the case for you or no? Yeah,
I mean, I think there's still a lot of camaraderie. I liken it to when I was skateboarding, and it wasn't sort of I just landed this trick and I don't want anyone else, any of my friends, if I did a 360 kickflip and one of my friends did a 360 kickflip, I was like, yes, you did it, high fives. And I think there's that same sort of mentality in costuming. Like, I did a Hawkman costume years ago, which I absolutely love. It was many, many pounds ago. Let me also say that. And then I saw another person with the Hawkman costume. He was like, "Oh man, I hope you don't mind." And it's like, dude, like, I want everybody to do Hawkman. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm the biggest supporter of others, and I know there are other people out there, and I think they're in the small minority, who don't share that mindset. I definitely think there are some, elitist cosplayers out there who,
Sure.
I feel like I'm standing around a high school clique of the cool kids around, some of the costumers that are out there. But again, I think that's in a very small minority, but I think for anyone who's getting into costuming, if they're nice, if they are respectful, I think please and thank you go a long way, because I know very few people who online wouldn't be perfectly willing to say, here's exactly how I did this. Please let me know how I can help you. What I have heard of is a lot of the younger generation, and I really sound like an old fogey saying this.
Don't worry, we talk about this all the time. Dark money.
Yeah, I hear of some younger costumers who seem just a little bit more entitled nowadays. Just tell me how you did this,
or send me the file.
Yeah, send me this.
Instead of like, can you tell me where you found the file, or is there any way I can, like, you can point me in the right direction for this? It's a lot of how you ask, right? If somebody tells me to send them the file for something that that I've worked hard in trying to sell, probably not. But if somebody asks me, like, hey man, like, I can't really afford to do that, I want to paint it myself or something else, and it's how they ask, and that you're totally right.
Yeah, so I mean, manners go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
So I would give that advice. I'll be happy to tell anybody anything, because I feel like I got so much help when I first started costuming.
Yeah.
And everyone has to start somewhere. I mean, my first true effort in costuming was I took that Ruby's Superman that I had. I counted up. I spent 16 hours meticulously hand painting the S backwards. Okay. And then at DragonCon, I spent 4 hours in front of the mirror with white and black face paint and turned myself into a really terrible Bizarro.
Hey, it's still Bizarro. It still counts. It's awesome.
It did. And I had somebody at the con, it was like my first real effort in 2007. I had someone who yelled at me, "Hey, terrible costume." And I was like, oh, hold on a second. He's saying it in Bizarro speak. He's saying great costume.
Yeah.
It wasn't. But that mindset of, I'm going to be supportive and lift other people up is something that I've always taken with me. And, one of my goals in costuming, and my biggest goal in creating the superhero costuming forum, was to bring people together. I've wanted to help others build costumes, but also to build lasting friendships, because the greatest thing about costuming to me isn't the costumings per se, it's the friendships that I've made that I've had for 15 years that I will probably have for the rest of my life. That's the most important thing to me about this hobby.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, myself included, the first time that I went to DragonCon, I was in a couple of your shoots, your bigger shoots. One that was like somebody invited me to, and then a couple of them that were just the big ones, right? And it was fantastic because everybody's there and we're all like standing on the stairs and just chatting with whatever people were next to you. You guys are all running around working really hard, yelling at people, trying to get people places. And I mean, while it might be somewhat boring for us, for the most part, if people are making the most of it, we're all meeting each other. We're all, and like, I met a whole ton of people the first year I was at DragonCon because of the superhero costuming forum and their shoots that you were doing, right?
Yeah.
And beforehand, like, people kept inviting me to them and like telling me about them. It was a major big thing. And then also just during, and I also have pictures of myself like on the stairs with people who I'm now friends with. And back then, of course, we had no idea who each other were, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's pretty fantastic how large and small the cosplay community can be, right?
Can I tell you how those shoots began?
Yeah, oh, definitely. I want to hear all the stories. How did those what made you decide to do that, or how did it go?
Well, when I first started, those shoots obviously didn't exist, but cosplay.com used to put on every year a Marvel and DC photo shoot. So I went to it that very first year that I went back, and it was just a mass of people standing on the floor of the Marriott. There's like 50 people. There's no steps, no elevation. There was no director. There was no set photography. So literally everyone just stood around for 5 minutes. Some random person said, "Okay, everybody pose." And then like 5 or 6 photographers that nobody knew started taking pictures. And then 5 minutes later, we were done. So it was 10 minutes. And
I've been to photo shoots like that. Like in the last, I don't know, in 2018, 2019, it's not 2020, we didn't do anything. But yes, I'm right there with you in the fact that definitely still happens.
Yep.
So go on.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrible. So I did it again the next year in my Hawkman costume. So big step up in the next year to do Hawkman. And again, I showed up, and big mass of people, no direction, no set photography. I was in the back. So when they said everybody pose, I just held up my mace above my head because I was like, I'm going to get something in this photo. Yeah. And I still have that photo somewhere on my computer, and I've titled that photo, "There's My Mace," because that's the only thing you can see of me in the photo is me holding my mace up in the back. And so the next year on cosplay.com, when someone inevitably started that thread, I went on the thread and I said, "I'm not doing it." And people were like, what? Like, why? Like, they were flabbergasted. And I said, "Well, here's the reasons why. Like I just told you."
Yeah.
And they said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, what I'd like to do is move it to where there's some steps so we can elevate people so that we can see people. I'd like somebody to be in charge, and maybe we could get a photographer that everyone can find their photos afterwards. Because, we all look on this thread every year and nobody can ever find the photos. And yet we keep doing the same thing year after year. So it was me and a couple other ladies on cosplay.com said, "Okay, we'll come and help you." And so that first year we did it at the Sun Trust over at the bank.
Yeah.
When you were allowed to do photos.
I was about to say, back you could shoot there, because now you can't.
Yeah, a long time ago. That's a whole other story. So we showed up in that first year. I think we had about 80 people show up, which was at that time, holy shit, this is huge. Biggest ever.
Yeah, I mean, 80 people is a lot of people anyway. Not anything close to what you've had recently, but yes, 80 people is a whole lot of people.
Whole ton of people. We had Marvel and DC there. The 2 ladies who were going to help me, one of them never showed. The other showed up like halfway through it. And I was like, "Oh, great, you're here. You can help." And she was like, "You got this."
Isn't that how it always is, though?
Right? Yeah. So from that point forward, it was just my kind of shoot. So we separated it into Marvel and DC because there was enough costumers each that we could have photos. At that point, believe it or not, no one, and I really mean this, James, not a single photo shoot was going on at the Hilton Steps. This is a kind of unbelievable today. That back then, that literally was a smoking gallery. And so I had scouted it out, and I thought to myself, that would make a much better location. And I made a couple of big decisions. I said, look, we've got so many people who are coming to these things. We can't do Marvel and DC anymore. We just can't do it. There's too many people. So let's split those onto separate days.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're not going to do them at the Sun Trust anymore. We're going to move over to the Hilton next year. And so this was like revolutionary stuff. Like everyone was like, no, that'll never work. There's not enough people. Every kind of objection you can always, you always have.
There's always the naysayers.
Always the naysayers, exactly. So that next year at the Hilton Steps, I think we probably had about 100 costumers at each. So we went from 80 combined to 100 each on Marvel and DC in separate days. And we probably had, 20, 30 people who were there kind of in the peanut gallery watching, assorted photographers. Just kind of on the fly, I started making up different subgroups for people to, because we had enough of each. It was like, oh, okay, well, we can get the Lantern Corps together for DC. Or if it's Marvel, hey, let's pull out all of the Avengers and get subgroups. And so from there, every year we started tweaking it. And then it became a planned, like, all right, I know I've got this many people online who are going to show up with the Marvel family. So we'll have this year I know we're going to have enough to do a Shazam group. This year I know we've got enough people coming to do a Justice Society of America subgroup. And so it started to get very intricate. With so many people coming that I needed to start having teams. It went from me just shouting to me with a small megaphone to eventually me with a large megaphone to eventually us with 2 big megaphones. The last year that I was the full director of both the shoots, I literally had a team of 30 people.
I was there. I remember seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we directed probably 800 to 900 different costumers. That last photo shoot that I officially was in charge of with James Gunn at the Marvel shoot. And it got too big. And I know you may have viewers who don't come to DragonCon, but there's 2 giant sets of steps, which are the fire escape steps for the ballroom. So they have to be enormous. We filled up both of the giant sets of steps to the brim and overflowing in the bottom with costumers. Quite literally, they've become the largest regular superhero photo shoots in the world by far. There's nothing even close. And frankly, some of the largest costume photo shoots of any kind, if not the largest of any kind in the entire world. And every year DragonCon uses the photo shoots pictures.
It's very cool. Just to answer that question, it's super duper fucking cool.
Yeah. It really, the photo shoot experience is magical.
Yeah, no, it really is for sure. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, it's an electric atmosphere, when you have hundreds of people in costume. Because I think one of the coolest things about costuming is the fact that you're among your own, right? You're among your element. You're among all of these fellow geeks. There's a camaraderie. You're not the weirdo anymore. You're among your brethren.
And also you're among other people. With that many people, you're bound to. If I'm dressed as Cable, I'm bound to see another Cable. And I hardly ever see another Cable, especially if I am also in Cable, right? Like every once in a while I'll see one, but I won't. I just won't be in that day, and that's super cool to or like a Deadpool or somebody else that goes right with you. And I've easily made fast friends at your shoot just because they're like somebody else's character either was the same character as mine or went directly with our character or the character that I was with. Yeah. And you're right. Like there's some magic in the air on so many different levels, right? Like that you're getting pictures, but the big thing for me, is to meet people, right? Like the photo shoot part of it is cool, but the meeting all of my fellow nerds and my fellow like fans of whatever the hell I'm into right now is the magic, and that's I've met a lot of cool people there, and again, I don't know how many times people have said this to you. From all of us, thank you for all the stuff that you did on that one. Thanks for getting on that forum, being like, I'm not happy with this. I'm like, fuck this. Well, I can do this better, and then doing it better, right? Like that's I like that a lot too. I see a lot of people complain, but then not do anything about it.
There's an art to directing photo shoots.
Tell us about that.
I always joke about Alan the asshole because you kind of have to be sort of an asshole.
Oh man, I have taken the please is implied and used it.
Yeah,
I got that from you. Anybody out there that knows me knows that I like to say that the please is implied here, and I got that from Alec. That was which way are you? I got that was this guy right here. Sorry, go on with your.
No, that's great. I appreciate it. Steal from the best, right?
Right, yeah, right. No, and it's great because when I heard you say that, I'm like, yeah, that's totally fucking true. Like I want to say that at the very beginning of a big shooter, very beginning of a big event. The please is implied, but I'm going to just start barking out commands because you have to. Sorry, go ahead.
And I've had people who've come up to me like, "Oh, thank you. One of my favorites was as I was at a big photo shoot, and somebody else was directing. It was going terribly, and I walked up, and a girl came up to me and she said, "Oh, thank God you're here." And I walked to the director. I said, "How are things going?" And he was like, "Oh, just deer in the headlights." I said, "Would you like some help?" And he said, "Oh, yes, please. Oh my God, please." And just.
It's good that you asked for help for sure, because you don't want to step on people's toes or anything like that. But it's it's also good that you had it's experience too, right? Like the first time you did it, I'm sure you weren't nearly as good as you are now, right? Or
well, I
did it go pretty well from the start?
Better over time.
Sure.
But as crazy as it sounds, I think my experience bartending in college really helped me kind of compartmentalize my mind. Because when I was bartending, I had 18 seats around my bar. I bartended at No Charlie's during college. I had 4 tops around the bar that I also took care of. So there's another 16 people. I made every drink for the restaurant. I made and prepared every to-go order for the restaurant. So a normal waiter would have 4 tops. I had 4 jobs. I was 4 times as busy as everyone else. I made a ton of money bartending in college,
yeah.
But I was able to compartmentalize my mind and have 15 steps in advance planned out. All right, take care of that table. This guy needs a drink. I've got to make that job at the bar. I need to check on that to-go order. And it was just all like that. So I think one of the keys to successful directing is to be able to think ahead. What I see a lot of directors do is they don't have a plan ahead of time. They get there, they just kind of start spitballing, and then that shot is done, and they've just been sitting there kind of like,
yeah,
looking and admiring the handiwork, like, look how cool that is. And then they're finished, and then they take a couple of minutes to kind of like, all right, think about what I'm going to do next. All right, well, how do we do that? And they're trying to like put it all together. And any time that costumers are spent standing around is time on the clock, time wasted. So, I've always tried to think of my plan ahead of time, communicate that plan, write it out, get everyone together ahead of time. And then at the time of the shoot, I'm not even looking at the shot while it's being shot. It's kind of like, I set it up, that's done. I'll enjoy the pictures later. Now I'm going to look at my list. I'm going to start thinking about what I need to do here in order to get us into that configuration so that when we're done, it's like, all right, everybody, now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do this. So everything just moves. So we can get done in an hour what other shoots would never get done or would take, 3 hours to accomplish. And when you're out in the Atlanta heat, especially,
in costume for
that
people
clock is ticking. Yeah, so you want to keep things moving. There's definitely a specific art to it. At this point, I've probably directed close to 40 different photo shoots, and the largest that there are out there. It's a blast. I have so much fun doing it just because I know it makes so many people so happy, and it brings so many people together. I've had other friends of mine, my wife included, like, why do you keep doing this thing?
Yeah.
When by and large 99% of the people who go to it, I don't know. I wasn't even getting to have the friendship time and camaraderie time because I'm running the show. So for the last few years I was doing it, it was basically just work, but everything from that shoot was magic. For it's fun for me to do it, and it's fun for everybody online, and some of the special moments that we've had at those shoots have just been memories that I'll have for a lifetime. All the different celebrities that we've had who've come to the shoot, the various wedding proposals and wedding that we've had at the photo shoots, those are memories that I'll always have, that I know hundreds of people will always have as well.
Oh, for sure. And you made that possible. And I've been asked a couple of times, like, why I run my own events sometimes too. And yeah, you don't really do it specifically in the moment. It's going to be work, but then afterward you have those memories, and you know that you gave all that like cool goodness to everybody else, right? So and karma's a thing. Personally, I believe that was a thing. So that's helpful. Yeah. Dude, let me again. I've always been amazed by that. That's really a fun story to hear how it happened. You don't, just for people who aren't keeping track or are new, you don't currently do those, but other people do typically. Not this coming year, but typically that's the thing. So who's directed it, or who'd you pass the torch to, or what's?
So I passed the torch after. I can't remember the year it was that James Gunn came to the photo shoot. I passed it to Joy Sutton, who was my assistant director at the time. Mm-hmm. She did it for a year, and she was like, nope, that's too much. Yeah. It literally consumes your entire weekend. It
for sure.
Mine all day Saturday, all day Sunday. taken all of the supplies down there, the ladders, the megaphones. We had a Gatorade table, cups, the table itself. It was just, you know, all consuming. Bill Waters is now, I've handed the torch off to Bill. Bill also directs, he lives in San Francisco. He directs the giant photo shoots that are at San Diego Comic-Con. So Bill is very comfortable in front of a large group, obviously. Those are probably the second largest superhero photo shoots after DragonCon. And, you know, I think Bill does a great job. I've still stepped in and done some assistant directing. Like,
oh, sure.
I'll come in and I'll help with the subgroup. You know, when Bill's directing the big shoot, you know, he may turn to me and say, hey, what do you think we do next? And, you know, I'll give him an idea or two. But as far as like the meat and potatoes, the grind of all of the year-long setup of getting all of these people together and, you know, finagling all the volunteers, I've kind of passed that on to others. But I still want to go to the photo shoots every year. Now I want to be on the other side. I want to get to be the one who gets to enjoy it, make friends, you know, go around and just ogle all of the amazing costumes that are there. I feel like I sort of earned that at this point.
I've definitely seen Bill in action, and he definitely knows what he's doing. He's good at directing and going through that too. So for people who maybe are going to go to DragonCon for the first time next year, whenever they start doing it again, definitely keep going back. Even though Alan will hopefully be there, but even though he's not directing there you go.
I'll still be directing the subgroup or something there.
Yeah, and then I remember there was one night at DragonCon, I turned around and you were sitting there, and you had your costume was the stairs, right? Yeah. I think you had your megaphone with you. I can't remember exactly, but tell us about that costume. You cosplayed the shoot, right?
Yeah, I had a friend of mine at the time had told me about some other conventions where I don't know if it's KatsuCon or something where they have a ball pit.
That was another con.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the con.
Dashu Con. I think it was a fail con. Where it was the ball pit. Yeah.
And then we started talking like how would you cosplay DragonCon? And it just immediately hit me. It was like there's nothing more emblematic of DragonCon. I mean, than the shoots. I mean,
especially to you, right? Like this was the direct. It was perfect cosplay for you, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing at DragonCon even the people who aren't superheroes, everybody knows of the giant superhero costume photo shoots. I've met people all over the country who've heard of DragonCon, and I've said, "Have you ever seen pictures of the giant superhero photo?" Everybody. I mean, everybody. So I bought 4 sets of the little tiny finger skateboards, the little tiny ones.
Yep.
Like I bought 4 sets of steps for those little tiny finger skateboards, glued them all together, painted them. And it's one of the most expensive things I've ever done. I bought $500 worth of Marvel Universe 3.75-inch action figures. And then as crazy as this sounds, I super glued them to these steps.
I mean, why would you not? You're making a costume. I love super glue. Yeah, sure. Why not?
And then I bought a Hilton. Nobody, I think, noticed this, but I actually bought a Hilton hat. And it had Hilton on the hat itself. I didn't know why I wasted the money. I just strapped the steps with all of the action figures on my chest. And the pose that I had them in is called a fan out. So they're all exploding out from the middle. And then in front of it, I had a little tiny Doctor Strange with a megaphone, which was me because I did direct one of the photo shoots one year as Doctor Strange with the megaphone. So one of my favorite moment from that night was I was standing at a bar with a drink, and a guy who was drunk at the bar, he said, "What are you supposed to do?" And I told him what I was, and I told him why I was what I was, because I directed these shoots. He lifts his beer and he goes, "That's meta as shit, man."
It is meta as shit for one. And two, that's exactly what I would want to hear from somebody at the bar at DragonCon. Yeah, that
was fun. Let me see if I can pull up a picture.
Oh man, so it's stuff like that. That don't get me wrong. Somebody else could have done the same exact costume, And yeah, it would have worked, but for it to be you, I just thought that was fantastic. I actually just thought at that point, I thought you were just cosplaying you, like what you would do, right? Like I get now that I talked to you, that you're cosplaying like DragonCon and Hilton and everything. But I just was like, oh, this is like, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. I kind of pulled some rank that year because I wasn't directing, and I just crashed every single subgroup as the Hilton Steps. But I do want to circle back on the fan out though, because I didn't know that term. I'd never heard of it before, and George Perez actually he's come to the photo shoot. He comes almost every year.
Yeah.
George is at DragonCon. He comes especially to the DC photo shoot. And I'd put George in the middle of the DC photo shoot on the big set of steps in front of everybody. And so I put George in the very middle, and I started describing, all right, you on the top, you're going to go up. You on the left, you're going to go left. You on the right, you're going to go out right. If you're in the front, you're going to be coming forward. And George just yells out, "It's called a fan out," which was pretty magical to put, because George is known for that, which is why I wanted to do it, because he's known
because he's there. Yeah,
explosion of characters and posters and on a bunch of comic book covers. So for George to come out and yell at me, "It's called a fan out," while I have him in the middle of his own real life fan out, was also meta as shit.
yeah, you're about the meta. That's fantastic, and it's great that I know you've said the fan out multiple times. It's great that you found that from George himself. All right, so we know you like Doctor Strange. We know you're into the directing. What I gotta say, what is your favorite non-comic book character?
That's a hard one because I'm mostly into comic books.
All right.
I will say one of my favorite movies of all time is Conan the Barbarian, the original with Arnold Schwarzenegger from 1982. I did recently purchase the museum replicas Conan the Barbarian Atlantean sword, which is hanging up on the wall in the other room. I've wanted that sword for 20 years. So that's one of my other favorite, non-comic book characters. My youngest son, I have 3 boys, is named Connor. And my wife at the time just liked the name. I thought, well, that sounds like Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod from Highlander. So we actually spell his name Connor, just like in Highlander. So my next sword purchase is going to be Connor's katana. That he got from Ramirez, that ivory hilt dragon katana. So those are probably 2 of my absolute favorites.
So Highlander and Conan, that's fantastic. Yeah, and both sword related things. As a prop guy, I gotta say, I love when people ask me to make like Doctor Strange's axes and things like that you don't see very often, right? Is there anything in particular that, like, I guess you see or whatever in a comic book, you're like, man, I'm always kind of, I sometimes ask people about this even after the show. I'm doing it on the show this time. But is there anything in particular that you see that would be like, man, I've not seen like a prop of that type of thing that's from the comics? Because especially as a comic book guy, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the comics that a lot of people don't even realize, right? Or know happened.
Off the top of my head, I don't really know if I can think of any. I have thought for a long time like how to make different Doctor Strange effects.
Oh, totally.
I've got some of the acrylic spells that I've held up. I've never bought one, but it's kind of been done already. The spinning fans that you can get that people have created Doctor Strange spells on. If someone could ever come up with how to have a glowing flame portal behind me, so it looks like I'm saying, I would be whatever it costs. I would definitely pay that. I've never had a costume where a Doctor Strange costume where the axe of Angaramus, Doctor Strange's axe, I'd need it because that's a very specific run in the comics.
Yeah,
I'd love to have one. I think that's a fantastic prop. I've also never seen the flaming sword of the Vishanti, because if you look in Infinity War, you'll see that he wields that flaming sword for a hot minute.
Really? I have to go back and watch that.
It's only for a second that he's got the flaming sword. That flaming sword actually came with the original Infinity War sideshow Doctor Strange, which I don't have. I only have the sideshow from Doctor Strange's own movie. So I've never seen that flaming sword before. I don't know how you particularly do it.
3 or 4 people have asked me about it. I've never built it because nobody's ever gone through with the commission. That's how that goes, and it's rough because I mean, a flaming sword takes a lot. They always almost want it to light up and all that, the whole works of it. So
you'd almost
have to
cool. Cast it and then with like a clear resin and then have LEDs in it. And flames are really, really difficult because
to make them look good, right?
The eye knows what flames are supposed to look like. Flames are extraordinarily difficult. I've tried drawing flames before. I kind of got lucky with my Firestorm costume because Firestorm obviously has a flame head.
Yeah, I love your Firestorm. Yeah.
But when I made that costume, Ruby's had come out with a Human Torch costume. And so I had that Human Torch wig that I was able to just kind of like co-opt and make it into my Firestorm wig. So I got really lucky because it's a pretty decent latex piece in the way that they painted it. I actually bought several of those Firestorm wigs to make my flaming arm for my Super Skrull costume.
Oh, cool! That's how you did that. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I've seen that.
I cut I cut up a couple of those to make it around my giant Super Skrull fist. So he had a flaming fist, and then I had a giant thing fist as well, like the rock arm. And now those Human Torch wigs are non-existent. They're all have been purchased. They're nowhere to be found on the internet. And I'm sure if I had one now, I could sell it for a ton of money.
Yeah, but you wouldn't because you make it into some cool costume thing. So I feel you about flames for sure. And there's a couple newish technologies for like making stuff that would help. But yeah, they're hard. But your Super Skrull, I know exactly what you're talking about. It looks awesome. I'm glad that those were those heads or those wigs. It's fantastic to see people repurpose things like that, and it looked great, right? Like I had no idea what it was made of. It was perfect.
Yeah, my Super Skrull. This won't show up on the camera, I don't think. No, you can't see it.
Oh yeah.
If you see that slice on my pinky?
Mm-hmm. I do. I see it.
Yep. So that's 9 stitches from Super Skrull.
Was that wearing it or making it?
Making it, actually.
Yeah, okay.
My initial I was rushing trying to finish that costume because I'm greedy and selfish, I guess, because I wanted to win the Wizard Magazine costume contest for a 3rd time
again. Yeah.
And there was a deadline coming up, so I actually took time off of work, and I was going to work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to finish it. And my initial idea was to display all 4 powers of the Fantastic Four. So I had finished the rock arm, I'd finished the flame arm. I had the masks that I purchased from somebody else. It was really silly, but one leg for Mr. Fantastic, I had created a tube of the same spandex to go around my leg. So you could sort of imagine that I had a stretchy leg because of that tube of spandex that I'd wrapped around my leg. And then for my clear, kind of like the Sue Storm Invisible Girl leg, I thought, like, how would I make my leg invisible? And I thought, well, action figures are this clear frosted plastic when they're supposed to be, invisible, kind of like the Doctor Strange spirit figure behind me. Yeah. So I went out and I got 4 shower curtains that were clear frosted plastic, and I sandwiched them all together, and I covered my leg and my boot in that clear frosted plastic. So if you knew what Super Skrull was, you could say that's what that's supposed to be. Obviously, it's not invisible, but you knew because you've kind of been trained culturally. That's what it's supposed to represent.
Right, absolutely.
And so it didn't actually end up working as best as I thought it would. And when I was gluing it around my boot and I was cutting it off the edge of the bottom of the boot, that excess, the razor blade went through the heel. I mean, through an inch of rubber in the heel because I was having to cut 4 layers really quick. Yeah. And I went right down my pinky. And my first thought was, being, in the medical profession, was that's going to take 3 hours in the emergency room. and I don't have 3 hours because I got to finish this thing because tomorrow's the deadline. And so I just wrapped up my finger in a big, thick wad of gauze. And then after about an hour, it had bled through, and I was like, nope, I'm going to have to waste 3 hours.
Yeah, that's immediate super glue and go to the hospital.
Yeah,
that's how that goes.
Yeah, that scar keeps reforming, so I have to like bend my pinky out all the time to like stretch it out. So eventually we'll have to go in and probably clean that scar out just so I don't have a hook finger when I'm in my 80s. Fun stuff. How'd you get that? Well, let me tell you.
The war stories of hurting yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. You got to be safe when you're making costumes. It's hard. We're always using blades. It kind of makes me mad because like I cut myself today, and I feel like I cut myself all the time when I'm not. Like I'll be like doing dishes or something, and I'll cut myself on a butter knife. I use blades constantly, right? I don't know, for whatever reason. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad I don't
cut myself with a butter knife a couple of years ago, actually. My twin brother and his wife were visiting Atlanta, and I was trying to make breakfast, and I pulled apart a couple of sausage patties and took a butter knife on my finger. And I didn't want, because they were only down for one more day, I didn't want to, go to the urgent care. So I just had my wife get me some needle and thread, and I gave myself 3 stitches over the sink. And I am forbidden from this point forward from giving myself stitches anymore. It kind of freaked my wife out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you could do it with one hand, right? Like it's impressive.
Yeah, I had my brother hold my finger steady so that I could sew it. Yeah, but I teach surgery, so for me it was no big deal. For everybody,
yeah. So you teach surgery. I didn't know that you teach surgery. I knew that you were in surgical profession, so you basically are Doctor Strange in like that respect as well. It just clicked for me, like shit, man. Yeah, that's right. So
so
you said you hurt your hand, you just haven't hurt your hand enough.
See, I just need like 9 more of those on all those small fingers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then you can go learn magic. Go learn magic afterward. That'll be great.
In my last company, it was me and 2 general surgeons who trained gastroenterologists all across the country. And in our team emails, it was the 2 doctors, and they referred to me as Doctor Strange.
As they should, right?
And in my current company, my nickname is Doctor Strange. So for the last 9 years now, at work, I'm called Doctor Strange.
That is fantastic. Yeah, that's
pretty fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
Yeah, which, by the way, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but just proof in the pudding here. Yeah. I got my very first ever tattoo a few months ago.
Oh, that looks amazing, dude.
Yeah, and that's Doctor Strange, kind of in the sanctum. This gets completed in September. We're going to add the window above it, which is called the Window of the Worlds, by the way. And then there's going to be like a space nebula kind of background behind it, which, while I was doing the tour earlier, let me give you another tour here real quick. So I have a custom glass door.
Oh, no way. No way. You have
to see my custom stained glass door. This took a few months, and I won't say how much money it took.
Doesn't matter. That looks awesome.
Yeah, we have my front door is the seal of the Vishanti. And then quite recently, I never knew who the artist was who had done my original tattoo art. But there it is. It's by Stanley Artgerm Lau, who is really big in the comics right now. He does a lot of the variant covers, sort of an Alex Ross, sort of hyper-realistic style of art. And so he sketched that. And then the person who had bought that sketch from him put it online. One of the people on one of the Doctor Strange fan pages that I'm a part of sent it to me knowing that was my tattoo.
Yeah.
And so now I have the original artwork that is on me permanently.
Yeah, why would you not? Like, honestly, I knew you liked Doctor Strange, but I'm now getting the full blast of you being.
It's gone almost full psychotic at this point.
I think it's super cool that people call you Doctor Strange at work, right? And it's just a nickname there too. That's great. That's fantastic, especially since you like it so much, right? And that's kind of it's memorable too. Like you said at the very beginning, how you got into costuming is you dressed up and you could get into to see doctors and that sort of thing. It's always It's always good to be able to be memorable somehow in some way.
Yeah, well, as being in the operating room every day, and being around some of the smartest people in the world every day, it just kind of I sort of identify with the character a lot more than most.
Sure.
And it just really speaks to me. And what's funny about it is that I initially hadn't really wanted to do Doctor Strange, but my wife wanted to do a lot of couples costumes.
Sure.
And, my philosophy in costume making has always been, do it first or do it best, which is why I've done a lot of like esoteric B-list, C-list costumes, because I don't want to do like the same thing. Like you've seen a million Stormtroopers, right?
Sure.
So I've always wanted to do stuff that's a little out of the ordinary, a little more unique. And if I'm going to put the effort into it, then I just because it's not any competition against others. It's for me. I want to be the best because it's just the standard that I hold myself to. And I'd seen a couple of pretty decent Doctor Strange costumes, so I was like, yeah, I don't know if we can do it better. Which my wife's amazing. She's done an amazing job on our Doctor Strange costume. So it's really this is all her fault, is what I'm saying.
No, totally, all of it. Just blame her now. And then when your door looks like the Doctor Strange sanctum, then it's her fault. It's really her fault at that point.
Well, she's the one who designed the door too. So
that's
she did the artwork for it.
It's great to be supported, right? Like that's awesome. I mean, I figured that she was cool with it because one, it's awesome, and two, it's on your door.
Yeah, I've got a big foyer window, sort of like the Sanctum Sanctorum, that's above my stairs. It's just a regular plain old window right now. So at some point in the future, I've promised my wife we're going to build onto the back of the house first because she wants a sunroom. But the deal is that after we build the sunroom, then I get to get this custom stained glass giant window in my foyer. And when I do that, I think people from all over the country are going to make a mecca to my house.
Well, then there's just going to be photo shoots happening on the stairs. On your stairs, because you're the stairs photo shoot guy. It has to be your house now.
Yeah,
that's we're all all like 800 people are just going to pile in the house.
You guys know the Sanctum Sanctorum is only 20 minutes away from DragonCon. Like we got to go. We got to go see it while we're here. Yeah,
we're going to go take pictures on the stairs. It'll be awesome.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, why would you not, right? Like, tell me that in general is going to be the place. Every time you do a new Doctor Strange, or every time you get in Doctor Strange, you're going to get a picture in front of it because you have to, right? Like, yeah, why would you not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've completely disregarded most of the questions that we usually do, but one I always love to hear is, okay, so you have, and this is perfect for Doctor Strange, you have time manipulation powers. You can go back. Alan can go back and tell past Alan anything that he wants. That past Alan needed to hear. Basically, good advice to yourself. But there's no like butterfly effect or anything else like that happens. So, what is some advice and like what would you have gone back and it could be anything and it could be any time.
I don't really know if there's much costuming wise that I would change. Everyone makes mistakes in their life, and I think everyone needs to learn from those mistakes. And I've always taken those as opportunities for growth. But what I'll say is I think a couple of the secrets to happiness in life that I found. And one of the things that I think allows me to do those giant photo shoots is learning how to not care what other people think, but being able to forgive yourself when you make mistakes is something that I wish I could have taught my younger self at a much earlier age. I think a lot of people's anxiety revolves around their perception of how other people view them, whereas most people are just concerned about how other people are viewing them. Most people are more concerned about themselves. They tend to forget very quickly, your missteps. And, I'm always trying to look forward. And if I can't change something, then I'm not going to worry about it. If it's in the past, like Elsa, I let it go. And it's that ability to forgive myself. Like, I've made mistakes standing in front of hundreds of people. I've told people, hundreds of people, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. That's not working. Let's abandon that. Let's do this instead. And it's a small, stupid example, but it's just one of those things that I wish more people were able to forgive themselves, because I think, again, that's one of the biggest secrets to happiness in this life.
I mean, I would agree, and not caring as much what other people think, and when other people, obviously your wife, kids, family, close family members, that matters.
It doesn't matter.
Like random strangers, getting over that is rough, and it's hard because there's always the naysayers, like we said before. And there's the people who are saying that they could do better or whatever. So yeah, that's really good advice. And so, but you now know that you've known that for a while then. But you just past you would have benefited from that. I feel like we could all benefit from that kind of advice. Yeah. So going switching gears again a little bit. So when do you think you, I guess, really decided that you wanted to like collect all of those, like the comics and the things that you were doing? Because you like Doctor Strange, you kind of were like, hey, it's a couple of costume. When was that switch, I guess? Right? Like when you were like, no, you know what? I'm Doctor Strange now. Like I want to
go. It didn't take long after we made that initial Doctor Strange costume for me to just really click with the character, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's been many costumes in my costuming history that I've been sort of like that guy I've been known for. Mm-hmm. When I did my Firestorm costume, I was the Firestorm guy. When I did Red Tornado, I was, hey, that's the Red Tornado guy. When I did Hawkman, I was like, that's the Hawkman guy. When I did Sasquatch for a long time, I was like, oh, that's the guy who did Sasquatch. But when I did Doctor Strange, for whatever reason, that just seemed to hit people in a really special way, where everything else that all 30 costumes at that point I had done, all didn't matter anymore. Like, from that point forward, I was the Doctor Strange guy. And I was absolutely fine with that. Because again, like we discussed, I really identify with the character. After I got on the cover of Doctor Strange #1, it was sort of like, all right, now the cement is set.
Yeah.
It's in stone at this point, so to speak. Now my vice president of sales sends me emails, Doctor Strange.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
It's just sort of like, it is a part of me now, and I think it's probably here to, obviously it's here to stay.
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't know when we first came out. It's probably about 9 years ago now.
Okay, so you've been Doctor Strange for 9 years.
Yeah, and
that's quite the commitment to the cosplay that you have there, right?
Yeah, my wife and I are actually we've started and are sort of conceiving our next Doctor Strange costume.
Cool.
Because while I really like what's happened in the MCU, like I understand the monk sort of influence they have on the costume, and it's a real world take on it. I think it's strayed a little bit too far from the comics. So our idea of what we want to do is something that's more of a hybrid, something that's more of a real world, yet it's kind of like if the comic book costume was real and it still had more of a comic influence. More of a hybrid sort of effect. My wife's been sewing some trim on the cape, the little black squiggles that's on the gold trim all the way around the cape. So she's hand sewing every single one of those black squiggles around the cape. The original cape that we made was literally, and James, I really mean this without hyperbole, 60 hours of work.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Those are very detailed And if you're hand stitching, then
and so this cape may eventually take just as much time. We put together, and my wife has ordered a bunch of different things. Let me see if I can find you a picture here real quick. We put together a mock-up of more of kind of like a realistic Eye of Agamotto. So this is just a bunch of different brass pieces that I still need to glue together and weather.
Oh, that looks really cool. Yeah.
So I don't know if I can get too close there.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, so that'll be sort of more of a realistic Eye of Agamotto. My original eye is made out of resin, which is really amazing. Joy Sutton made that for me. But it's definitely kind of like a cosplay costume, whereas we want this next Doctor Strange to be more like, wow, if Doctor Strange walked out into the real world, like if this was our MCU, that's sort of what he would look like.
That is very cool, because that's kind of what I was going to ask. Is this your real world take on Doctor Strange? And it seems like it is. So that's what's next. Usually I like to ask what's next. Anything else? What else is next?
We've got a mock-up for Count Dooku that not a mock-up. My wife has finished the tunic.
Okay.
So she's going to make herself an Asajj Ventress. We've already got the lightsabers. She spent a lot of money on the lightsabers.
Oh, those are
very, very lucky man if you haven't.
Oh yeah. Like it seems like it goes cosplay and collecting things goes pretty well with.
Yeah, I married well.
Yeah,
we're actually. I just bought some more Detolfs for downstairs in this same room so that she can display more of her toys out.
Cool.
Again, I married very, very, very well.
What's she into as far as like characters or whatever?
She's very much into Disney. If she was on here, she could talk about Disney for 2 hours straight. She actually just bought an Esmeralda doll. She's very much into Wanda. She's actually making an incredibly intricate jeweled crown for Wanda, for Scarlet Witch.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. So you're going to go as real world Doctor Strange and real world Wanda? Is that what's happening?
Kinda, yeah. So kind of more of a gypsy influence. I'm blanking on the artist that's the primary influence.
Sure.
We've actually cosplayed as Doctor Strange and Wanda Maximoff together before at HeroesCon. Mm-hmm. So we'll probably do that again. And, we try to do things together as in costuming now as much as possible. I'm sort of married to the beard, and so is she. She does not like me without the beard. It's weird. It's how we met. I'm partial to the beard as well, because when I'm talking to surgeons, the gray gives me just a little bit of gravitas where I'm not this young whippersnapper telling them what to do because I'm instructing. So I like it for that aspect. And frankly, very honestly, I have a really weak chin. And so this beard helps hide it. So now we're always trying to find costumes where I don't have to shave the beard.
Well, I mean, Doctor Strange has a beard. That's good, right? You're leaning into it so hard. You've been for 9 years. You've been Doctor Strange. You got to just keep going, right?
Yeah. My one only quasi regret with Doctor Strange is when I filmed the comic book cover. When Judy had me shoot that day, which, by the way, I got a check from Marvel for $100.
Oh, that's awesome! There you go. You professional comic book cover.
Professional cosplayer right there.
There you go.
Marvel Comics employee for a day. By the way.
Yeah.
I'd actually spent 3 months growing out that handlebar mustache. And so my mustache tends to want to grow out and not down. And I'm obsessive compulsive about trimming all of this. And so for 3 months, I just let it go. And then I spent about 45 minutes shaving down to the mustache. And it was sad and poetic because I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, I'm never going to have a better mustache than this for the rest of it'll never get better. This is peak mustache. As silly as that sounds, it was kind of sad. I was like, oh man.
It is peak mustache. That's really what you hit there. But then you got to document it, right? Then now it's on.
He's got the best mustache in comics of it. I'm a little biased.
And that's your best mustache you've ever had in your entire life and will ever have in your entire life. So that works. Peak mustache. There you go.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, all right, man. I feel like I've learned a whole bunch more about you. I knew you were into Doctor Strange. And I know a few other people who have like really gravitated toward Doctor Strange, right? Like a couple people I know that cosplay Doctor Strange. I've cosplayed Doctor Strange before. He's super fun to be, but I mean, he's not the one that I'm gravitating toward. But I do know a decent amount of people who I feel like they gravitate toward the character. It makes a lot of sense. But then when I talk to you and you're a surgeon and all this other stuff, I'm like, wow, okay, it makes even more sense. It's really clicked, and it's very cool.
Yeah, one of the things that's kind of funny that I'm sort of known for as Doctor Strange is I have a tendency whenever I'm taking these pictures to lift the eyebrow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Why would you not?
Yeah,
like, do it if you can do that, and that's the Doctor Strange thing.
Yeah, so now I have people who like will send me pictures of like, look at this guy doing an Allen.
Yeah,
which is the eyebrow.
Yeah,
I got trademarked it somehow.
Totally. Like you haven't. You don't have a trademark on that one. TM, Allen eyebrow.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of other stuff, and I don't know how much more stuff you want to get into, but there's a whole lot of things, other things that I've done in costuming. Like when Stan Lee's come to the photo shoots, or James Gunn or other celebrities.
Yeah, tell us. We do have to go here relatively soon, but we got some time for some stories. So yeah, tell us about some of your favorite stories like that from the big costuming shoot, or DragonCon, or just in general.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite all-time stories from costuming is this many years ago. I dressed up as Spider-Man in Times Square, New York, and on top of the Empire State Building.
Wow, really?
You could not do it today. It was a different time. This is actually when Spider-Man 3 was out in theaters.
Oh,
that's how long ago this was.
That's emo Spider-Man. That was that Spider-Man.
Yeah, it was actually Spider-Man Week in New York City. The mayor at the time had declared it Spider-Man Week.
That's awesome.
So I was going up to New York with my twin and a couple of guy friends for kind of like a guy's weekend. And my friend Kevin, who's a police officer, he was like, I can't believe you're doing this. Like, I don't know you. You don't know me. You go do your thing. Like, we're going to be over here. And so my twin brother and I went to Times Square, and I was going to get dressed in the bathrooms that were in Times Square, because Charmin used to sponsor and have public restrooms that you could go to in Times Square. If you know anything about New York City, you know that there's no public restrooms anywhere. You can actually buy maps of where public restrooms are located. And we got there, and they were gone. And it was like, well, all right, well, what are we going to do? And there was McDonald's. There's a 2-story McDonald's that's in Times Square. There's one single stall bathroom in that 2-story McDonald's. So me and Adam walked into the bathroom, and it takes about 10 minutes to undress and get suited up in spandex. Mm-hmm. But there's only one public bathroom in all of Times Square. And we start hearing bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
I realized later that what people in the restaurant saw was 2 guys walk in the bathroom and close it and lock it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's
so a very New York City thing to do. I opened the door in full Spider-Man, and I just quipped, like, was it worth the wait? And just kept walking straight out. And people were just like, whoa. People were coming out of the restaurant following us to take pictures. I got mobbed in Times Square. That was just an absolute blast. But after about 20 minutes or so, I looked at my friends and I was like, we could be here all day. And here's a picture of me in Times Square.
That's awesome.
In my costume. And I was like, I got to get out of this thing, because we're not going to do any of the other sightseeing that we're going to do. So from that point, my twin brother had been to New York City a bunch of times. He didn't want to go on top of the Empire State Building. My other 2 friends, guy friends, had never been. I'd been before. So I was like, all right, I'll take them to go see the Empire State Building. So I don't, have you ever been to the Empire State Building, James?
I'm not, no.
So you've got to wait in line to get up on the elevator, which, for us, it was relatively quick that day. It took us about an hour in line. that can be an hour and a half, 2-3 hours to wait in line just to get on the elevator to take you
So
up.
it's exactly like DragonCon. Okay.
Yeah. So we got up there, and I was like, I'll just change at the top.
Yeah,
totally. Let me do it. Yeah. So
well, that way you don't get mobbed at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the gift shop, which is in the middle of the observation deck, there's only one single stall bathroom. So again, 2 guys, and we were out on the observation deck for like 15 minutes, and my friend Kevin came up to me and was like, "You ready? You ready?" And I was like, "What happened to you? Don't know me?" And I he was like, all right. It's pretty cool. Like, so we went into the bathroom. When I opened the bathroom that time, there was 5 security guards all the way, like stopped, like surrounding the bathroom, like, whoa. And I had to convince them I wasn't there to climb anything. I wasn't going to jump.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted some pictures.
Yeah.
So they escorted me out to the observation deck to keep an eye on me.
Totally.
And again, I was mobbed. I mean, just for 45 minutes straight. Everyone on that observation deck came to go get a picture with Spider-Man. They actually were employing their own King Kong mascot to walk around and take pictures. Yeah. The King Kong mascot got so jealous, he came over to me and tried to put me in a headlock at one point. Whoa. Here, I'll show you a real quick picture. There's me on top of the Empire State Building.
That is a lifetime experience for sure. That is awesome.
Yeah, so you could never do that today. Not in a million years could you do that today. So when I was done, the security guards came up to me and they're like, "You're done? You're done? All right, Spider-Man coming through. Spider-Man coming through." They escorted me to the bathroom and waited until I got undressed. They had so much fun watching me. Me and my 2 buddies, they escorted us to the front of the line because it's just as long to get down.
Oh, okay.
So we bypassed an hour-and-a-half line, and we got our own private elevator ride back down to the street on Fifth Avenue, which was just an absolutely amazing experience, something I'll never forget.
I mean, they had fun, right? It's not every day that you're a security guard and you get to see Spider-Man pop out. That's very cool. And I'm really glad that you got pictures of it and that you proved to your friend that was like, I don't know you, that it is actually pretty cool. And I love those type of stories because I always tell people, don't knock cosplay until you try it. Because I mean, I'm a grown ass man, and I tell people all the time, like, hey, if there's a convention, you're going to see me there, and I'm going to be in full costume of some sort. And sometimes people are like, oh, that's pretty cool. And a lot of times people are like, oh, that's pretty cool. And they're kind of thinking, yeah, that's fine. Right? It's fun. And the people who do eventually try it with me usually are like, yeah, this is a blast. This is fantastic to do.
Yeah, I've been costuming for so long, like my motivations have changed. Because
for sure.
When I first started, it was like people want my picture, and you're sort of like a little mini celebrity, and it's like, want to take my picture? Like, do you want to take my picture? And now I'm actually sort of annoyed by pictures. It's like, I don't know you. I don't care about it. I didn't make this for you. Like, come on, I need to get to this place. And it's more of, I want to create something. I want to make art. And sure. I want to hang out with my friends. I want to go to, do this thing, and the random people, I'm happy to oblige them, but it's not the same
sure.
as when I first. Does that make sense? Like,
no, it totally does. Because, and I always tell people, because I run a convention, I run a photo shoot weekend that I invite cosplayers and photographers and no muggles.
Yeah.
Right. And part of the reason I do it is because then you can go places. You don't get stopped all the time, right? And there are definitely people like at the hotel that are just there, and we stop and take pictures with them. But it's not the major crowds of a convention. I like going to the major crowds of a convention, and I like walking through, and I want to get pictures with people. But you're right, and sometimes, what I always tell people in like panels or on here is if you stop to ask somebody for a picture, have your phone ready. Just like have your phone ready. Because there's a lot of times I'm like really in the middle of trying to go to some place, and I want to be nice, and I'm waiting, and they've asked me if they can take my picture, and then they're sitting there fumbling with their phone or something else like that. And it takes a while for them to like get ready, and then other people come over. And it's not like nobody wants that to happen, because of course we want, like, you're not being a dick, right? And you're spreading the love that is costuming, right? But it's a simple matter of try to be courteous. Now, that being said, I have definitely been the guy on the other end of that who turns around the corner, sees somebody who's like, "Oh man, this is fantastic. Hold on a second. Like, can I get your picture?" And then I'm like, "Where the fuck's my phone?" Okay. I'm sitting there for a while. I'm feeling awful.
I've done worse than that because I can't turn my directing hat off. So I've stopped random people and I've been like, "All right, so now hold your arm up. Well, it'll actually look better if you trust me." And I'm like, I want to like explain, like, I'm the guy. And then I'm like, they just think I'm some asshole telling them how to pose.
Totally.
And I'm like, all right, turn it off. Just get your picture. It's really cool. Thank you. Yeah. It's one of my all-time pet peeves in the giant photo shoots because every year there'll be, let's say there's 100 people in a subgroup, which I know sound crazy, but we'll have 100 people in a subgroup.
Oh, totally.
That's the subgroup. And one person will be like, "Hey, Mr. Photographer, here's my cell phone. Can you take some pictures on my phone?" So we've got 100 people who are all going to get their photos from this one photographer and one guy's cell phone. I'm like, no, you'll get pictures of it. No, we're not going to do that. Every year, I absolutely hate it. It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things I feel like people don't understand that you can't do that. Like, you immediately think, oh, well, I want a picture of this too, and I might not get to see it. And like you were saying before we it was a big thing and you would post the pictures of it up, you didn't, know if you were to see this picture. So I've definitely handed people my cell phone in cases where I'm like, man, I don't know this photographer or anything like that. I just want to make sure I get this cool picture with these people. But I feel you on the fact that you can't do that with 100 people, right? Like it just cannot happen.
No, if you have a buddy, give it to your buddy.
Totally. And there's a lot of handlers that are there that are probably happy to do that. But I don't know, especially the photographer themselves. Like, no, they're busy. They're literally working right now.
I see a lot of photo shoots that have the photographer sort of as the director themselves.
That's tough, and
I get that, and I know a lot of photographers want that sort of creative control. But in all the shoots that I've done, because I've been in a lot, I've been doing this a long time. It never seems to work out quite as well because they're trying to direct, and then there's a lot of manipulation with the camera that they typically have to do. I'm not a photographer, so I don't know the magic. But, I've always found that it does work better if you have a team, and I'm always very collaborative with my photographers. I'm always turning to them and asking, like, is this good? Can we see everybody? Is there anything that you want? And then I, have everyone freeze. And then, when the photographer tells me they're done, then we can move on.
Yeah. And something else I noticed too is you have a good variety of different types of photographers. I know a decent amount of photographers that you tend to have at your shoots, and some of them are really great. They have like a zoom lenses, and they're able to catch individual people, even though they're on this massive stairs. Yep. And then some of them are like, and a lot of them are actually fans of comics too. So they'll make sure to frame it to the point where all the Fantastic Four type characters that are standing near each other, they're all hit, even though it's a big shoot. So it's always helpful to go to experts and lean on experts. And if you're directing, for sure. No, I've seen that too. I've definitely seen. And it's not bad, right? Like if it's what you have to work with, go for it. But if you can have that director and also the comic book feel of it, I think I've talked to a couple other people and you definitely included that will read a lot of comics, and they tend to be the people who read a lot of comics do tend to be the people who are the best at like posing me, right? And there's certain people I totally trust. And I might have practiced in the mirror even on some of my poses because I do that sometimes, which sounds kind of silly, but it's important, at least to me. But, if I'm doing this and you tell me, like put your fist out more or up, whatever, then absolutely I want to do that. Like I'm going to do that. I trust the people who know the comics even better.
Yeah. Right? So those, like when you're at the photographer, they're like, no, turn your chin like here.
Yeah.
You're like, this is weird. And then the photo looks perfect.
Sure.
That's what you gain from experience. I'll just to turn it back around, at the giant photo shoots, because we have so many photographers, one of the planning things is I will give photographers different assignments. So like Mark Schaefer is a fantastic photographer. He does an amazing job at all those close-ups in the photo shoot. So his job is to get some of those more intimate portraits within the photo shoot. I'll have somebody else who I want them to take some like dynamic from down below and up sideways, kind of different action shots. And then, Patrick's son is an amazing photographer, a longtime friend of mine. He's really good at the big, giant, widescreen, the entire group shots. And, that definitely makes sense. A quick posing note for anyone that's watching, because especially when you're first new to costuming, it's really, it's almost intuitive that you want to have your pose like you have like thrown a punch, let's say. And so what happens is when you sit and like you've thrown a punch, what you look like is this. And you look like you're about to give a Heil Hitler salute, and you look like
don't want to be that guy.
You look like you're punching air. There's nobody there.
Right.
So one of the easiest things to do in posing is you always pose like you're about to take the punch.
You're about to throw the punch.
You're about to throw it.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then that's dynamic. And
I mean, you can pose like you're about to take the punch too, but that's a totally different picture, right?
Yeah. Some of the best photos I've ever had are photos where we'll have one person like this, like with Wolverine claws, like coming out like that, and then you can see all the people behind it.
Oh, totally.
Or we'll have people who are like shaped in a U reverse or like this. I could go into pose theory all day long because there's a bunch of standard group shots that regardless of the group that you're in, you can put these kind of different configurations together. But I think the fan out always looks great for every group, no matter what.
For the big groups, definitely the fan out is like the one that's super impressive. And I love that, like all the videography that you've seen too, right? Because you've worked with not just photographers, for people who don't know, but a lot of video too. And those fan outs and the moving of everybody at the same time. We're all just like, rah, and you can see it go. And when you catch that on video, it really is something magical too.
Yeah, when we practice the fan out meme, when it's a 1, 2, 3, and then bam, that's always magical. People dancing on the steps is always kind of magical as well.
You got to dance in costume. You have to dance in costume. Yeah. And what's funny is every once in a while you put on a costume and you either act exactly like the character when you didn't think you were going to be able to, or you're going to want to dance, or both, right? Yeah. And it happens to so many people, and it happens to me all the time. I'm like, in Space Wolves, I have to dance. They're just these giant clunky things. I have to.
Yeah. One of the things that's magical that I can't do anymore, and I did this a couple of times young in my directing career, is have people lay down like they're dead. Which is a pretty remarkable thing to say, hey, I know you've spent probably hundreds of dollars and a long time making it.
Yeah.
Will you lay down on the dirty ground for me, please?
Oh, but that's the point. We're shooting it and we want those things.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, if I can take a knee as well, I've realized that putting a knee pad or knee pads on like cable is absolutely important. One, because it looks cool because it's a knee pad. But then two, I can actually take a knee in front of people. So then it gives more dynamic to the pictures and everything else like that. And then getting down the ground. And if you're, as from a cosplayer standpoint, I mean, you do it too. Well, I'll get on the ground. If it doesn't need it, do you need that for a shot? Somebody punching me? Do you need me to throw my prop up in the air? I can fix it later. Like, that's fine. Like, let's go. Like, I want to try to get the good shot.
Yeah, I set up a shot once. It was, we had a bunch of Punishers show up one year. We had like 7 or 8 Punishers, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I had thought about doing this shot, and I just nixed it. And I couldn't bring myself to have everybody lie dead on the ground. But it was the year that George was coming with his nieces to the photo shoot, and I was gonna set up the death of Supergirl because his niece was coming as Supergirl. And we had a really muscular Superman at the time, and George was going to be there. It was going to be really special, but they were running late. And I knew I wanted to set that shot up, but I didn't want to let everybody go. So I was doing a network time killer. And it took me about 20 seconds of deliberation for me to think, all right, I got nothing. Like all my plans are done. I've shot every shot. I've got nothing left. So we set up Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe, which I don't know if you remember that comic. That comic cover is Punisher on top of a mountain of dead superheroes. So I got all the Punishers at the top, all with their guns, and then everyone else on the steps below it, everyone laid down or laid across the side, so everyone was dead. And that was one of the few times I broke my rule and just stared and admired, because it was awesome. It looked so amazing in person. And thankfully I was safe because George showed up pretty soon after that.
And you were done, so you didn't have to keep going with the next one. You got to
I was like, all right, yeah, George is here. Yeah, everyone clap. Yeah. We all laid down dead when Stan Lee came to our, we did an Avengers photo shoot one year that Stan Lee came to. It was one of the last shoots I think he ever did at DragonCon. He was in his 90s at that point already, completely deaf in one ear, but sharp as a tack.
Oh yeah. Stan was sharp, making jokes.
Yeah, God, he was such a ladies' man. Like you could no hiding it. Like he enjoyed the women in costume. There's no doubt about it. One of my buddies was dressed up as Hercules, and he walked by and he said, "Oh my God," which is like, that's clever. I helped him up the steps, so I got to shake his hand and help him up steps. I've got a really cool picture of me standing behind Stan Lee dressed as Doctor Strange in that photo shoot. So we did lay down dead. One of the very last times I've ever asked people to do that at that photo shoot. Probably never again. Now the shoots are just too big. We just can't do anything like that anymore.
Yeah, but you can still do that kind of stuff in smaller shoots too. But yeah, and also you don't want to exclude people. I totally understand why you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, the first time Stan came to our photo shoot was, I think, the second year we ever were at the Hilton. This is when my wife now and I were dating, and I didn't know that Stan Lee was coming.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, this was like 2011, I think.
Did he just surprise you, or did other people invite him and they just didn't tell you?
We were done with the shoot. Actually, we'd been wrapped for about 15 minutes, finished, done.
Okay.
I dispersed everybody. And this guy came up, Max was his manager, who's since come out to be, and he was an asshole, complete and total asshole. And he's since come out to be a horrible person in regards to managing Stan's finances. He was a dick then. So this guy comes up to me, I don't know him, and he says, "Hey, are you in charge?" Civilian guy, like muggle, like you said. And,
sure.
And I was like, yeah. What's up? And he said, I think it'd be a good idea if we got all these superhero costumers up on these steps. What do you think? And I said, you mean like we just did 15 minutes ago? And then he says, oh, well, I'm Max. I'm Stan Lee's handler and manager. He's going to be here in 15 minutes. So I think it'd be great if we could get all these costumers back up on the steps for him. And I was like, buddy, why don't you lead with that?
yeah. Lead with that and don't just
I got on my megaphone and I just announced to everyone, Stan Lee will be here in 15 minutes. Again, I repeat, Stan Lee will be here in 15 minutes. People were on the phone. No, come back. No, Stan Lee's going to be. No, why don't you go around the building? Come back.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, people were running to get back to Stan Lee. We still had, it's so magical. People just hang out before and after the shoots.
For sure.
People come an hour before the shoots and stay an hour after. Because
I was going to say, I really like mingling with people before and after myself, and I try to spend as much time there as possible, and that's why it's so tough, because if you're trying to do other costumes at DragonCon, a lot of people will bring a bunch. I brought a bunch before, but it is about hanging out, in that area is perfect, right? Like, you scouted it. It's super cool to know that you're the one that picked that area, but you have the little glass area in between, so you can kind of chill, and like, if it's super hot, you can be in there. There's water and there's some other stuff. And then, the both sides are great as far as you can even split and be like, hey, what's happening over there? It's like Dragon Age happening. And you can just kind of sit and watch it happen, all also in costume. It's, for people who haven't been to DragonCon, if you ever do go, make sure you go to the Hilton Steps Saturday and Sunday, right? Isn't it Saturday and Sunday most of the time?
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday. We actually moved the shoots to night.
Oh, yeah.
Because DragonCon started using those steps for panel line queues during the day.
Did you have to work with the Hilton specifically when you first started? Because I know you do now, right?
No,
did?
I never went to the Hilton and said, "Can we do this?"
Right. Okay.
I know people in the know, and the Hilton loves us. They just absolutely. The management was really cool. The management at the Hilton was like, "Hey, this is great publicity for our hotel. It's bringing a lot more people into our hotel." So now they've set up that dumb DJ, and they're selling drinks and food out there.
Yeah.
So they're making money off of all the costumers who are out there now. So they always liked us. Frankly, I'd asked DragonCon, I don't know how many times, for things like, "Hey, can we get a security person? Can we get water? I've got 1,000 of your guests out here. I think you'd like to bring a security person to 1,000 of your guests." And I never got DragonCon to ever once. And I guess I just didn't go through the right channels, or just didn't get high enough to ever give us any assistance. And it's like, guys, you use my photos every year for promotion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, I'm dying for just a minimum of ask of help. So when they started the panel lines, I canceled the photo shoots.
I remember that. I remember that being a big deal.
Just flat out canceled them. I said
you had to.
And I had friends who were like, "We can't do it." And I said, "No, trust me. Like, people, there will be an uproar, and we will finally get some help from DragonCon." And it was a big gamble. It was a big risk.
Totally.
And I was, 100% shoots were canceled. We would not have had photo shoots that year. And it was very quickly that Rachel, thankfully, with DragonCon, she's one of the higher ups, said, "You know what? We've heard the fan outcry, and let's see what we can do." And so they reached out, and we started, and they, very graciously, and thank you, DragonCon, started setting up the lights at night, which actually I think has worked even better, because we don't have the heat of the Atlanta sun that's baking everyone. By that time, I live here in Atlanta, so by that time there's a little bit of a breeze going. The lights are phenomenal lights that have lit everyone up very well. It's at night, so we're not competing with other photo shoots. We can be out there for as long as we want. It's also, because it's at night, it's not competing with a lot of other stuff during the day, so more people can come. We were able to get more celebrities, I think, out there.
I have told people that it's more of a family-friendly area during nighttime, right? Because at nighttime at DragonCon isn't always the most family-friendly event, right? During the day, sure, it's it's like another con. It's great.
Yeah.
So I've seen people been like, "Well, can I bring my kids there?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, but after 8 o'clock, you might want to be out on the Hilton steps or somewhere, like doing your own thing."
Yeah.
And I mean, also, if you're taking your kids to DragonCon, they're going to see some shit. That's fine, right? Like,
I was once in an elevator one night, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and this lady had her 4-year-old, and she was yelling and bitching at some girl who had basically tape on her boobs.
Right.
And she had said the word "fuck," and it was. And I was like, "Lady, I'm a father of 3. It's 1 a.m. at DragonCon. Don't be yelling at her." That's
like, I'd be yelling at her for having a kid or something out there. Like, don't get me wrong, people can do whatever the fuck they want to do, but that's
exactly.
She was invading that person's space, really, at that point. In my mind.
Exactly. So I'll just book in, as we wrap up here. That's that first appearance by Stanley at the photo shoots. So it came to the steps. Max, the handler guy, had said, "I'm going to direct. Thank you for your offer of assistance."
Yeah, thanks, man.
So here's what Max did, James.
Okay.
He stand in the middle of the steps. He called up all the SHIELD agents, which was like 7-8 people. Then with my megaphone, or no, without my megaphone,
sure.
He turns and he says, "Okay, everybody up." And there was like 150 people there. And I turned my megaphone and I yelled out, "Stop!" Because all I could see was Stan Lee killed by Stampede at
Right.
Hilton. And so everybody stopped because I'm the director and they listened to me. Thankfully.
And you had a megaphone, which is important and a good tool.
Yeah, because we didn't crush Stan Lee to death, thankfully.
Yeah. Good job saving Stan Lee.
Yeah, the way that you have to do these photo shoots is you have to put the biggest group up first. Otherwise, you get the steps halfway packed and you've got this giant mass of people out there that everyone else then has to cram up. So you always start with the biggest set of people first, which in our case is almost invariably the X-Men for Marvel. So X-Men takes up half the steps. And so then we get up all the other smaller groups. All right, then it's Avengers next, then it's this, then it's that, then it's that, and we're kind of piling everybody in. And so my girlfriend, now wife at the time, Mary, was Siren. So she was in the X-Men all the way up this tiny in the photo because she followed my direction and went up all the way to the very top. So we got a few pictures with Stan. The very last picture, I said, you know what, I'm going to get a picture with Stan Lee. So as I counted out my 1, 2, 3, I was walking up to the steps and I got to the very corner. I did my fan out. I literally dropped my megaphone so it wouldn't be in the picture and posed. So I have one picture that year of me in the photo shoot with Stan Lee. And my wife to this day has and never will forgive me for making her this tiny in the photo.
Yeah, that happens. I've been in the back and I've been in the front, right? Like that happens on those things.
Yeah, well, all I'll say is it pays to know the director and be nice to him.
Oh, for sure, right? I mean, yeah, you probably heard about that one. We've been hearing about that one. Yeah, we learned.
Yeah.
But no, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear about the time that you saved Stan Lee from getting trampled by a bunch of cosplayers. That would have been awful for cosplay in general, too. Where we would have taken a really bad rap, which is something else, too, if you're watching or, you know, I've said this before. When you are in costume, you are literally representing everyone that does cosplay. So, like, if you're Spider-Man and you do dumb shit on the like state building or the Empire State Building, then, you know, people are going to judge you for that for the most part. Well, luckily, people don't always, right? And there's a ton more people, and there are apparently a bunch of people that are like Times Square now that don't have anything to do with cosplay, but are also in a bunch of character costumes and are, you know, kind of pushy about it. But for the most part, if you're at a convention and you are dressed in costume, understand that, like, you are literally representing the entire cosplay community in some way. So don't be a dick and don't trample Stan Lee and don't do any of those things. Please make sure not to do that.
And be kind to the kids. Because,
yes.
You know, we've had some kids that have come to our photo shoots who I know, like, it's been life-changing for them. Like, they've had just some really magical experiences. You know, there's a mother who has been bringing her daughter to the giant photo shoots. First as X-23 and then other costumes. And it's always fun for me to, you know, hey, how old are you? Come with me. And then I'll put them in the very front of the photo shoot. I'll introduce like the 9-year-old girl to a few hundred people, you know, and then we'll get a special photo with, you know, that little kid. And those kids, it's the joy on their face is one of the things that helps keep me going and doing these things. And, you know, to set up some of those special photos, you know, we had a little Flash kid come one year. He was like 5 or 6 years old. And we had him doing like a little speed pose in front of the DC universe, you know, things like that. You know, and I see a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'll take a photo with your kid. I'm just like, man, like, take this opportunity and pay it forward, because now that kid's going to associate you and your attitude with that character probably for the rest of their life, or they're always going to think about that one Dick Thor that I met.
Yeah, or just cosplay in general, right?
Again, yeah, or cosplay in general. Yeah. So take care of the kids. That took me a while to learn myself.
No, it's rough, and it's also it's hard. I can't talk right now. When you are tired and you've been going in for a while, like, it's hard not to give somebody, you know, oh yeah, sure, I'll take the picture, whatever, and not to be dick. But it is important to, take care of the kids, take care of all the people when you're in there. And with that, man, we're 2 hours in, and it's been a blast, and I got to have you back, but I think we're gonna have to call it there. Yeah. Where can we find you? Like what if we're gonna look for you and your stuff that you on the internet? Where can we find you?
So I don't really promote my social media presence at all. If you want, you can find me as Alan Wolf on Facebook. But I'm not trying to be a name in costuming or anymore or anything like that. So by all means, if anyone's interested, they can come and check out. I've got a lot of public photo albums that people can check out. Or if anyone's listened to this and they want any advice on directing or costuming, or they see some of my photos of some of the costumes I've done, by all means feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help.
So where can we find like the superhero costuming forum? Does that still exist on Facebook or someplace?
Yeah, just solely on Facebook.
Okay.
At some point I've had a lot of people ask me to bring back the group chat and some the forum in some former aspects. So at some point I may create a group again, or I've had other people who've told me that we can do some of the, I can't even remember some of the other new social media platforms.
You don't have a TikTok for the?
No TikTok. The YouTube is defunct.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a not Twitch, but what's the other thing? I can't remember. Anyway, we may create something else, but you can find the SCF on Facebook, and we post some content occasionally here and there, but by and large, the group itself is just primarily in place just to help coordinate and direct the giant photo shoots at DragonCon at this point.
And let me say too, you have some amazing people that work with you during those shoots. I mean, the photographers alone are all fantastic, and then just all the directors. You said you had 30 people on.
Yeah, I mean, it's
crazy.
I get a lot of the accolades, but you're exactly right, and I'd be remiss myself if I didn't say thank you to all of the directors over the years, subgroup directors, wranglers, cow herders that we've had, security people who volunteered for us to help manage the crowds. A special shout out and thank you to Judy Stevens over the years from Marvel for helping get so many big name Marvel celebrities out to the shoots as well. And also finally, a big giant thank you to my wife for putting up with me for doing that for all of these years as well.
Yeah, and for letting you have cool shit all over your house, right? Like that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right, like we talked about before. But okay, so Alan, I gotta have you back. Anybody that wants to reach out, or if you want me to connect you with Alan, feel free to reach out to me too. But yeah, guys, I will see you in 2 weeks. Thanks again for watching. And this has been Lowering the Bar with Wulfgar and Alan Wolf.
Good night, everybody.